Spotlight. Today we're going to be talking to some nice folks from BlueFinity about their product Evoke. And I'm going to introduce you to Simon. Say hi, Simon.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
And to Bob. Hey, Bob.
Good morning, all, and Chuck.
So what we'd like to do today is tell you guys a little bit about their product. And a second. If anyone's curious, that's what I'll be drinking during the demo. There is no alcohol in it, but if you'd like the recipe, it's there. And let's get to our fun and frolic. So when I first started talking to Bob about doing this interview series, and I mentioned that I wanted to talk about Evoke as a 4GL, he got a little offended and said that kind of understated it and undersold it. You want to talk a little bit about what Evoke actually is, Bob?
Yes, Evoke, boy, do I want to talk about what Evoke is. Evoke is a develop once, deploy it everywhere platform that happens to work with multi-value, and it happens to work with SQL, and it happens to work with Oracle, and it happens to work with lots of other databases that are out there. Evoke is a product that aims at low code or no code. That means that the tool itself generates an app that will run on all devices without the need for anybody to do any coding.
Right, so when you say all devices, what does that really mean? Are you talking about PCs and Macs? Are you talking about web only? What does that really come out to?
Yes. What I'm talking about is the desktop as a web app or as a native app, phones, Apple phones, Android phones, if anybody has a Windows phone, watches, tablets, develop it once, have one set of code. That one set of code will run on all of those devices. Now, also, it can run as native on those devices. And native means that it acts as if it is a normal app running on a device.
So can you guys give an example of the kind of use case? Why are people interested in using this product? What kind of ways is it being used now?
I'll defer that to Simon because it's his turn.
Thank you, Bob. I didn't realize we were taking turns, but I appreciate that. Yeah, okay, well, Evoke's currently being used by customers in Australasia, throughout Europe, and throughout North America. And the type of people that are using it is very diverse. As Bob said, the resulting app runs on every platform, and that's from Linux, Apple, and Windows desktops through all the different tablets, all the different phones, and all the different watches. And because of that, we've got organizations that are using it for stock taking, organizations that are using it to create apps so that their contractors and employees can fill in their timesheets, their expense forms. You know, during the week, they'll create an app that their contractors can use on their phone when they're commuting into the office, on their desktop during the day, and on their tablet on the sofa in the evening, filling in their expense form as they go along, taking pictures of the receipts, and this automatically being uploaded and reminding the managers to approve it. We have organizations that are using this to monitor different warehouse and industry units, such as different VATs or machines or different components. And if you go into native mode, then you can go one step further and really integrate your app with anything. But you can, with Evoke, as Bob said, have citizen developers, people that really aren't, you know, down and dirty developers, simply use drop and drag, point and click, and option select to create an app that will meet fairly sophisticated business requirements. So without all the coding, you can actually meet the business requirements of industries such as the healthcare, banking, such as recruitment, such as manufacturing, service industry, etc., etc., etc. So you've really got an incredibly diverse range, and it would take way longer than this interview, I'm afraid, to go through all the different use cases. But on our website, www.bluefinity.com, you'll find a number of case studies of real live customers that have actually used Evoke and deployed it around the world, from our customers in Australasia, North America, and Europe.
Sounds like interesting stuff. Now, just to give the people who are listening a better sense, we're talking about like green screen scraping, or we're doing something a little more sophisticated here?
We're talking a lot more sophisticated than that. When people use Evoke, and Evoke itself is an app that people just download to their computers. And when you use Evoke, it will create for you a brand new software app that is ready to run on all of those different devices that I said, against all those different databases and all those different operating systems. You then simply use drop and drag, option select, point and click, and you're able to build apps that will interact with your phone camera, that will do the management that is required, that will adapt automatically based on whatever screen size or operating system they find they have. An app that will automatically utilize the culture of the different devices that it has. So no, we're not talking screen scrape. We're talking about a full function device that, when you go native, is the same as any of the most sophisticated native apps that you've downloaded from the Apple Store, Google Store, or the Microsoft stores.
So when you were saying that about the culture of the device, can you explain a little bit more about what that means?
Sure. Okay. So everybody's got their favorite phone. It's either an iPhone, or it's a Samsung phone, or it's an Amazon Fire device, or it's one of those Windows phones that Bob was joking about. And when you use a Windows computer and you look at a data grid, it will simply put the lines of data one after the other on the screen. Now, if you look at the same data grid on iOS, on any iOS device, Apple have their own culture, and they like to put the lines one after the other with a line between them. And they like to have a different style, a different font for their words, a different way of showing entry fields. And Android is exactly the same. They have their own culture. And there's many other things that make it instantly recognizable to us that we're looking at an iOS iPhone, or we're looking at an Android phone or tablet, or we're looking at a Windows or Apple desktop. We don't instantly know what those are, but when you look into it, there are these specific things that are the culture of the device. Now, with every Evoke app,
I hate to interrupt, but it sounds like that's a lot of work, that I'd have to be able to manage all those different thematics and everything.
Absolutely. In order to create what people have done in the past, is they've created separate apps for separate devices to embrace the cultures. But with Evoke, you simply tick a box and Evoke will automatically mimic the culture of the device the app is running on by the app sensing what it's running on. It's one app that runs on all these devices. But we also have customers that say, hey, you know what? We have a corporate style. And because we have a corporate style, we really don't care what device our app's running on. We always want it to look the same. And again, just check another box on the Evoke app, and you will always have exactly the same look and feel to your app.
Hey, now, you had a screen you popped up before, and you started talking about this as we were getting ready. You might want to show that to people, because that's kind of a good illustration.
Okay, well, what I was showing just before we got started today was simply one of the apps that we often use to demonstrate Evoke, that's been created by Evoke. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my different devices to work. And what I can do is I can switch my screen around in order to share my screen. And you should now be able to see three things. One, a web app in the background. And two, my live iPhone and my live iPad. And this is the bit I always get a little nervous about, because this is a live iPhone. And therefore, if my wife calls during this interview, please forgive me, it will come up on the screen. But this is exactly the same app. It's been generated by Evoke, and I can log in to these apps in exactly the same way, and I can put some information into these apps in exactly the same way. So I'll type in CAR as a customer number on all of these apps, and you will see that what it does is it brings up various screens that look very similar, but if you look closely, they're not. You'll notice that on the mobile devices, there's a burger menu, which is more traditional for mobile. Yet on the desktop, we've said, actually, we want a tiled menu on the left-hand side. That's because the developer of Evoke has asked for that, but he could have said he wants a normal menu or maybe even a minimal menu. But depending on whatever he wants, he's got his screen up. Now, if we look at this screen behind, we can see that there's two boxes at the bottom. One that shows us all the contacts for any of these customers that are clicked on, and a second one that shows us the extended details. That's also on the iPad, but there isn't enough room. So what it's done is tab them together, and the app has auto-sensed that there isn't enough room. It's tabbed them together. We can switch between them. We can look at the different ones that are there. But on the phone, there really isn't enough room for even that. So what it's done is it's put up a new menu option. And this new menu option allows us to jump to new screens to look at that. You say, well, that's great. But if I now switch around my tablet just by turning it around, it'll also sense that the screen size has changed, and it will realize there's not enough room for those boxes at the bottom. It'll put up a new menu in order to be able to jump to new pages in order to look at that exact same information that we were just talking about. And Evoke has done all of this with no customization.
That's not me doing something and telling it there's 2 resolutions or 4 screen sizes or 8 orientations, etc.
Absolutely. This is all done by Evoke. There's no customization in this app. It's one of our demonstration apps showing no customization. And so all that's happened here is Evoke has created the app for all the different devices, and there are automatic adaptations that allow the device, the app, to adapt based on what the screen size and operating system is available.
Okay, so can you guys talk a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes? Is this literally download Evoke and you've got everything you need, or are there other pieces?
Yeah, no, it is download Evoke and you've got everything you need. Here you'll see a copy of Evoke, and actually this is the screen we were just looking at. And one of the things that I really like about Evoke, actually, if I tell you first of all what I really hate about tools, because Evoke is a tool. But what I hate about tools is when you use a tool to build something, you end up with something that looks more like the tool than what you want it to look like. I mean, you've got an idea in your head as to what sort of app, what sort of look and feel you want for your customers. But if you use a tool and something ends up looking like the tool, I find that frustrating. With Evoke, you can literally design down to a single pixel if you want. I don't recommend it, it'll take too long. But we have lots of individual segments so that you can actually change the look and feel of everything you want. You can bring up lots of images, lots of color. You can bring up different data. It is a business app. It's there to present information, data to you, and to allow you to manipulate data, but also to do it in a very user-friendly way. And that makes it really, really easy. So all you need to do is to literally follow the instructions to use Evoke. It's very intuitive. Our customers tell us that it's very, very intuitive, and build your screens. And if you want to have a look to see what those screens look like, well, you can actually do that right here on Evoke as well. This is what that screen will look like, for example, on an iPhone 10. And I always love to show people what it would look like on a watch. And then people ask, well, what if they turn their wrist around? So we can rotate it as well to see exactly what something's going to look like when you've created your app. You can, of course, force some different adaptations through Evoke, again, just through option selection. But It is so easy to just build your screens and have your own web app or native app using Evoke.
So on the bottom of that menu, I see that little option called Generate. What is it generating?
Okay, so Evoke will generate for you a native app or a web app, all from the same design, and it will create a Visual Studio solution. But what's great about Evoke is it's going to generate the hundreds of files and thousands of lines of code that you need, all the source code for your app, and it's going to deliver it right to your computer. In fact, I can show you right here a Visual Studio solution that Evoke has generated, and all the C#, all the JavaScript, all the cascading style sheets, the HTML5, etc., 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 have all been generated for you and downloaded to your computer. Now, that can be a little bit daunting. I mean, it's great that you've got all the source code of your app right there on your computer, but there's a lot of it. So how do you worry about that? Well, we have people that use Evoke that actually have never used a Visual Studio solution from Microsoft before, and that's fine. Evoke will do everything for you. It will deliver, it will open Visual Studio, open your solution. All you need to do is to run the app. And actually, that's exactly what I'm doing here, is I'm just running the app over IIS that I've downloaded into my Visual Studio solution.
Hi, Simon, this is Bob. Are you saying that this app was generated possibly by a citizen developer who knew nothing about Visual Studio, and that the app that was generated is non-proprietary? You mean it's just all standard open code?
Okay. The app was, this particular app, yes, was actually generated by a citizen developer. We have done tests. We've had administrative staff build apps. We've had all sorts of people build apps just to show that it can be done. And if we're really honest about that, one of the things you have to do with a business app is you have to link it up to your database. Although Evoke makes that incredibly easy, if you have a citizen developer that really has no idea about their database, then you do need a DBA to just say, you know, exactly where the data is. So as long as you've got a citizen developer, which is anybody that has the support of knowing the structure of their database and someone that can help them with that, then yes, it can be built like that. And Evoke will generate all of the source code for your app. So you don't need to do anything unless you want to, and it will provide that source code directly to your computer.
Wait, so Bob, I got a question for you. You use the term citizen developer. That's not a term I hear a lot. You want to explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, the nice thing about BlueFinity and our Evoke product is that we do lots of research into what's going on in the mobile application development platform marketplace. And I say we do the research. We read a lot of papers. And what is coming out of organizations like Forrester and the Gartner Group is that they see that the future and current market is asking that the people who know most about an application, they are the people that are developing that application. And those people are called citizen developers. So in essence, if they let me, someday I will learn how to create an app. And I will use, and since I do know a little bit about multi-value, I can create the entire app myself as a non-programmer. But there's something else that's going on here that we didn't mention, and that is that Evoke works, well, I did mention it, Evoke works with other databases. So that if you have a SQL database, you can use Evoke exactly as you did with multi-value on the SQL database. And if you want to include multiple databases within a single app, you can do that too. That's called multi-tenancy. I've learned an awful lot of new words working in this marketplace.
So what you're talking about is being able to move development closer to the subject experts, the people of the specific domain expertise in the business, the people who understand the things the business is doing, possibly in ways that the programmers are not necessarily privy to or in the same meetings for. Is that pretty much what you're talking about here?
An excellent, excellent definition, Charles.
Okay, so we're looking at a situation where you guys are taking design very seriously. You're talking about moving things to where the experts can touch them. And you have created a role for the technologists as well, because they can build the underpinnings, they can stabilize it, they can make sure that people are using the right definitions of a dollar and a day and all the other parts that are necessary. That sounds like a pretty powerful combination.
And there's one more thing that we didn't talk about. And that is, if you want to take what you have created and extend it and use Visual Studio to enhance it and to use tools and products that are out there in the marketplace, whether they're shareware or premium, you can add that to your project. And that's the place that the technicians within organizations really like Evoke, because they can do almost anything that they want.
Well, we actually go one stage further than that, Bob, don't we? What we do is we do allow people to add customization. They can add JavaScript, C#, whatever they want, if that's where they're comfortable coding. So they can update the middle tier, they can actually put customization, but they can also bring in code that they've already written, or they can bring in any of the thousands of component libraries that are out there, so that you can embrace all the best of breed products in the world, bring them into your app, expand them, and every time you regenerate, it reapplies all those. You don't have to go through and reapply them. So it preserves all your customization. And with multi-value databases, Evoke also generates your create, read, update, delete layer. And this means that it will provide all of that access to the file, to the actual object in your database. Whenever you want to create a new selection, you do that right within Evoke, and it will create all the code. And that's how you get to be one of these citizen developers that you're talking about, because it's writing all of that for you in an optimized form and preserving any customization you do to that. But because we're down to that CRUD layer, for those people that really enjoy working in Data Basic or any of the specific languages of the databases, it allows you to bring in anything you've done in that, call out to subroutines that you already have, and it preserves any of the customization that you do in Data Basic, as well as allowing you to customize in C# and JavaScript.
So when you're talking about being able to use C#, you're talking just about the phones and the tablets, and when you're talking about JavaScript, you're just talking about the web, right? So I do have to do double development?
No, you don't have to do any development, but if you want to, you actually, for for any device that you're targeting, Evoke creates a middle tier layer that accesses the database in C# so that you can do customization in C# if you like. You can also do JavaScript customization on the different UI if you want. But because we've got this CRUD layer, this create, read, update, delete layer, you're also able to customize in Visual Basic. So really, it's what you want. And that's one of the things that's really hard to get across with Evoke, is it's so flexible, it's so powerful. How do you describe to someone? It's really what you need and what you want, and it will do it.
So if, for example, I wanted to use a JavaScript library that had dashboarding functions, I would be able to set that up for the web app version, and it would be available for the phone and for everything else. I'm not creating that with multiple extensions for different devices. It's all one development.
Absolutely, 100%. It's all one development that is managed perfectly through all the devices from watch to desktop. So you can be using the same app on your phone, walk into your office, and immediately use it on the desktop. And as far as can you call in component libraries, yes, of course you can. But if I switch my screen around again for you, which hopefully it'll allow me to do, then what you'll see is that you also can bring in web services. And it's really easy to integrate a web service into your Evoke app. So this is a simple one to show a demonstration of using Google Maps. And Google Maps can obviously be introduced as a service, and it works directly as you would expect Google Maps to do anywhere. And it's the same for any different type of web service. You can do that for your graphs, you can do that for calculators, and so you can do it for whatever component libraries you want and whatever web services you want.
Simon, you just showed some graphs.
I did.
What if I don't like those graphs?
Well, we have this concept within Evoke that we have anywhere within Evoke, you can add what's called a code hook. Now, the code hooks within Evoke, you simply put in that I want my Bob1, my Bob2, and my Chuck1 and Chuck2 code hooks anywhere you like. Now, one of those places could have been next to those graphs. And if that's what you'd wanted to do, then you could have gone out to one of the dozens of premium or shareware component libraries. Some of the really well-known ones are things like UV charts, things like that. And if you've got one of those, you can hang that component library on the code hook, and subject to the variables being the same, it will instantly change that graph from the Evoke style graph to, if you used UV charts, the UV chart style graph, or any other style graph where you have a graphical component library.
So this sounds very powerful, but I'm thinking there's got to be quite the learning curve on it. If I wanted to get started with something like this, how would that happen?
Well, you very simply, let me just go back to one of these. You very simply start by licensing Evoke. When you license Evoke, we provide 2 meetings with you, with our experts. We have DBAs, we have Visual Studio experts, and we have Evoke experts. And they'll help you through what's called an environment review. And when you've done your environment review, that will have taken you from checking that you installed Evoke correctly, and that you also have all the correct components for Visual Studio, for your database, for connectivity to your database, etc., etc. And we'll go through and we'll create with you your very first app running on all the different devices. Now, when we've got to that point, we'll go into your user training. And whilst we're doing your user training, what we'll do is we'll help you create the first screens of your app. But we don't leave you there. If you have noticed, when we've looked at Evoke, we've seen this question mark on every screen. And when you go to that question mark, it will take you to user help specific to that part of Evoke. So as you can see, there's details here, but that's only the start of it. We've got a full and comprehensive user guide that will guide you through everything from how to create different menus and all the different settings, right the way through to how to complete your app. And if you don't like reading, we've got the whole lot in video for you as well. So as you go through, every part of Evoke has short 10-minute how-to videos. And as you get more advanced, so do the videos. Therefore, our customers have found that however they like to learn, they're able to use Evoke, not just using it as an intuitive usage product, but also with all of this help.
Okay, so if people wanted to get started with this, who would they contact? How would they set that up?
Well, very simply, they can go to the BlueFinity website and request that we call them back, or they can contact me. My phone number is on the website, Bob Markowitz. But I have some more questions for Simon that you didn't ask. And one of the questions I have for you, Simon, is I don't like paying for Visual Studio. I just can't see giving Microsoft some extra money. How do I get around that?
Well, first of all, let's just say that Microsoft have created a great product with Visual Studio, and so it definitely is worth paying for. But what they do have is a community edition that you can use, and Evoke works just wonderfully with that community edition. Now, if you want to take that further and go on, then of course you can take a license for that. But Bob, let's be real about this. You don't like paying for anything. So it's not just Visual Studio, is it? You don't like paying for Evoke or having other people pay for Evoke. So the way we sell Evoke is very simple. We charge a nominal fee for the product, which means that all we're doing is stopping tire kickers from wasting time with us. And once you pay that nominal fee, you create an app. Now, you are not charged anything further until you deploy live the app you've created. If you never create an app, you don't pay anything more. So it's really fair and really easy. And it also means, when you ask about the support we give, Chuck, our objectives are completely aligned with our customers. Our customers want to build business apps that are sophisticated, full function, really easy to maintain, and easy to deploy. And so do we, because we don't get any more money until they've deployed that live app.
I have another question for you, Simon. Since we're talking about Microsoft and the wonderful world of probably millions of developers out there, the world of Microsoft changes, and the world of Apple changes with their new phones, and the world of Oracle changes. How can I be sure that what I create today and what is created by a bunch of developers out there tomorrow, I can use that stuff?
Okay, that's pretty easy to answer, but maybe not in a short time. So with the different databases, we're committed to supporting all the different databases. And as of right now, we support all the multi-value databases and pretty much all of the SQL databases as well, which, by the way, gives a very easy transition process if anyone's taking any of their files off of one database onto another. But the different devices that you asked about, devices are coming out all the time, and they're changing. Now, you saw when I demonstrated what it looks like on an iPhone 10, and you probably noticed on the iPhone 8 and iPhone 7, etc., etc. But Evoke also already handles the iPhone 11, 12, and 13, some of which aren't even conceived yet. And the way we do that is we don't just provide you the screen images that you saw just now. You also are able to, in Evoke, be able to bring up custom sizes, custom operating system styles. And these are the different cultures. It's even changing in the design here that we were talking about earlier. And we're able to support all of the different frame sizes, all of the different operating systems in order to make sure that our customers always are compliant with whatever databases that they have. Plus, every Evoke app is backwards compatible.
Let's go forward compatible. The world is changing out there, and there's these things called next generation technologies, things like bots. Is Evoke going to be able to work with those?
Absolutely, Bob. The Evoke has something called components, and you don't just bring in component libraries, you bring in Evoke components. So an Evoke component is things like that web service that we talked about. That's just a component. So I want to link to this web service. But then you also have the other things that I showed you, like graphs. You have the chatbots. You're aware of these chatbots that will come up on the side of an app. And you can just bring one of those chatbots, but not our one, your favorite one. If you want to bring in Apple's chatbot or Google's chatbot or Microsoft chatbot, that's fine. Bring in your favorite chatbot and just include it in Evoke as a component. And that's how the citizen developers that you're talking about are able to do some really sophisticated and clever stuff when they use Evoke.
Now, I should point out to you, Bob, you actually have access to Simon offline. You don't always have to ask the questions here. Sorry, I had to poke a little bit. So let's bring this to a wrap up, guys. In essence, what we've said is that you've got a very powerful tool it's multi-screen, it's multi-platform, it's multi-database, and that if people are interested, they can call Bob Markowitz at home any time of the day or night to get involved, right?
Thank you, Chuck. Yes, and they do.
No problem. From my side, I'll be happy to post an image of Bob's home number for people so that they can call him.
And comments.
Yeah, I think we have his address as well.
Yes, and sadly, certain people also have my mobile number.
Yes. So, is there any parting thoughts you guys want to give? Because we're going to wrap this right about here.
Bob?
Yes. Please be aware that BlueFinity also has some other products, just quickly to mention to you. One is mv.net, which is connectivity between .net and multi-value, and a product called mv.ssis, which allows for the transfer of data seamlessly into Microsoft SSIS. I want to reinforce the ideas that we talked about today. We develop non-proprietary apps. It's not as other products are. It doesn't write an application within the language of the database that you're working with. We are a fully open system that we hope has taken care of the future, that makes it easy for non-technical developers to create apps, that makes it easy for technical developers to enhance those apps and to take things into the future. And it's almost cheap.
Absolutely, Bob. Totally agree. What Evoke does is allows any organization to develop sophisticated, full function, mobile and web apps that will extend whatever enterprise or back-end applications they already have, both quickly and effectively. And it'll do this for all the major mobile and desktop devices, and will work against whatever databases they already have or intend to have in the future.
Okay, so I'd like to thank you guys both for being here. It was an absolute pleasure. We're going to be back next month with another spotlight on another tool set that's available in the multi-value community, and we're going to talk about all sorts of other connections and opportunities. So thank you guys both.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Chuck.